Hey, it's April with Possible Diet. I'm doing something kind of different tonight. I have taken a break from posting videos on my YouTube channel, but I thought I would come back and do this recipe, and there's a couple more I'm going to do. I might try and do like once a month, just because I keep discovering new ways to eat vegetables. And I took a local foraging class through a company called Forage SF, where I learned all about how to cook with wild plants and foraged ingredients in my area, which was amazing. And so tonight I'm going to show you how to make a redwood risotto with cauliflower rice. So this is a low carb risotto, which is kind of amazing. It's not low fat, just so you know, but it's very exciting and super delicious. I posted a version of it on my Instagram that did not have redwood needles. Yep, this has redwood needles in it. But I have high hopes for this. So if you're watching this, it turned out awesome, and I posted it on my YouTube channel. What I'm going to do, the way that this is going to go is I have some local mushrooms. I did not pick these mushrooms. I got these at the farmer's market. This is called Hen of the Woods. This is what it looks like. I don't know if it's called Hen of the Woods because it looks like a hen's butt, maybe, I don't know. And then these are shiitake. When I went to my local farmer's market and I told the mushroom vendor what I was cooking. He recommended both of these mushrooms. Trust your farmers. They know what tastes good. They grow the food. They know what's good. He said that these would taste amazing in a risotto, so that's why I'm using them. He also suggested, pro tip, that you remove the stem of the shiitake and then slice this up and then dice this. Don't slice it like you normally find, but dice it into nice little squares. So I'm going to do that. We're going to saute these mushrooms in a little bit of olive oil with a couple of cloves of garlic and one large shallot, which is probably like 2 or 3 tablespoons of shallot, probably 3. And then about a cup of chopped yellow onion. If you don't like onion, you can take that down a little bit. I know this is pretty onion forward, but I love my alliums. They're great. They have awesome compounds that are good for you. And while that is sauteing, I'm going to make a bechamel sauce. And a bechamel sauce is very easy. It's just 3 tablespoons of butter, a 1/4 cup of flour, 3 cups of milk. I'm taking the milk down to 2.5 cups, just to make it like a little thicker. And then what I'm doing with the milk, I'm using Maple Hill Farms no sugar whole milk. So it's like ultra filtered, soft filtered milk that doesn't have any sugar in it. It's basically all protein. But I've got pine needles in here. I'm going to blend this and then strain it to strain out the pine needles. You can use a Vitamix if you have one. I do not have one. I just have like a NutriBullet. But the kind of pine needles that you want, there's only about a 1/4 cup. Sorry, they are not pine needles. They are redwood needles. Pine needles would have a very different flavor. So these are redwood tips. I know it's a redwood because I used the Picture It app. Took a picture of the tree. It told me it was a redwood. I thought it was, but once I took a picture of it, I knew. And I'm using the young shoots. They look like this. You can use these. They have a much stronger flavor. The Alexandra, the alchemist who taught our alchemistress who taught our foraging class, told us. But she said that like the young shoots are much more tender. You can see this is kind of very, very small up there. So I found some shoots growing at the base of this gigantic redwood right in front of my friend's apartment complex. So that is what I used in that. Most of them look like this. That was after I picked the very tips of a tree in another location. So I'm going to use that strained milk to make the bechamel. It's going to give it kind of like a piney rosemary flavor. And then I also have shredded Parmesan that I'm going to stir in at the end, and chopped up green beans. You can use asparagus if you want. Green beans are what I had. And then a little bit of fresh chopped parsley. The magic trick for this recipe is actually this. This is a World Market truffle, black garlic, and Parmesan seasoning. I know I already have garlic and I already have Parmesan, but the little bit of umami that the truffle adds to this is like very, very nice with the mushrooms. And you won't even notice it's cauliflower. And when I made this for my sister, she was like, that's not rice? I was like, nope, it's not rice, it's all vegetables. If you wanted to, you could probably dice up some celery or something and add it in there if you wanted more veggies, but I'm trying to keep it simple tonight. So I will see you in 2 shakes when I'm done dicing these mushrooms and we're ready to make the bechamel. So I just want to show you how I diced the mushrooms. I have to put them on this burner, which you can't see on my camera, because this is the only burner that's small enough for this pan that I use to make the bechamel in. So what you want to do is put the onions and garlic and shallot in like a Dutch oven with, or a big saucepan, with about 3 tablespoons of olive oil, enough to coat everything, and then also to coat the mushrooms when they get in. You have to be careful. I only use 3 tablespoons because last time I used like a little too much. So start with 3 tablespoons. When the onions get soft, then you want to add the mushrooms, and then you want to cook the mushrooms until they brown, like they actually brown, which takes a while because they'll release some water and then, you know, they'll start to get soft and they'll look like they're done, but they're not done. Cook them until they're brown, like toasted brown. And then to make a bechamel, you get your 3 tablespoons of butter in a pan. I learned how to make a proper bechamel sauce from a cooking class that I tagged in one of my other Instagram posts. If you check out my Instagram, I do a lot of recipes on my Instagram now. Because it's just easy to put something together and do a live and cook something in like 5 minutes, then make a video like this and edit it and post it on YouTube and all that stuff. So check out my Instagram if you haven't already. There's lots more recipes there. There's a series called Meal in a Minute that I really love doing. So Epicurean Exchange is the class that I took. Chef Charlie is the chef who showed me how to make a proper bechamel. And the thing I had been doing wrong my entire life is I wasn't actually cooking the flour. Flour is a raw food, which it says on the bag of flour, but you don't realize until you're tasting a bad bechamel that, like, yeah, it's not cooked. It needs to be cooked properly. This is our strained milk. It's green thanks to the Redwood tips. So just on kind of like medium-high heat, melt down your butter. And then when your butter is melted, you got to wait for it to kind of like bubble up a little bit. I just wait for little bubbles. Doesn't have to be like boiling or browning. You don't want it to brown. And then add a 1/4 cup of flour. Just use unbleached all-purpose flour. Doesn't have to be fancy. And the flour should dissolve right into the butter and look like that. It just looks like brown goop. And you want to cook this. It will bubble. But you want to cook it for a good like 5 minutes, not like 1 or 2 minutes, like a good 5 minutes. You want to make sure about as long as it would take you to like cook a scrambled egg. You want the raw flavor to cook out of the flour. You don't want it to brown, to get dark brown. We're not making like a brown roux. Keep stirring your onions and mushrooms. They're not quite browning, but they smell amazing. And your roux is going to start kind of bubbling a little bit. That's okay. Keep it going. Let it bubble. Let it cook. That's a good sign. No, it's bubbling. It's tricky to time this right. But usually I start I get right around the point where the onions get soft, I start making the roux. And then I start the roux right after I add the mushrooms. There's no getting around it. You have to dirty 2 pans for this recipe. And it might just be my imagination, but I feel like the roux smells a little different once it's cooked. Now, the mushrooms are soft, and so now I'm just going to let them sit on the bottom of the pan so that they can actually brown. And I'm not going to touch them. I'm just going to let them sizzle a little bit. I haven't tried making a roux with gluten-free flour. I don't know if it works. There's probably a recipe online for it. But you can't really make a bechamel without a roux. You might be able to get away with maybe some creme fraiche or heavy cream instead of a bechamel, but I have not tried it. You probably don't have to like constantly stir the roux, but I'm always afraid of it burning. Pro tip, silicone covered spatula or whisk so you don't scratch the bottom of your nonstick saucepan. It's almost there. It almost, when the flour is cooked, it almost smells like a baked pie crust. It goes from smelling like dough to crust. I can't explain it. But again, it could just be my imagination. Okay, I can hear my mushrooms sizzling. Yep, they're getting brown. That's what we're looking for. See the little crispy bits? See the brown? That's what we're looking for. Ooh, this smells so good with that garlic. So just give those a stir. And now, when you pour your milk in, the roux is going to bubble up like crazy, but just keep whisking. Now, we're just going to let this boil a little. Yep. Our mushrooms are getting all toasted up. These redwood tips smell so good. It almost smells like rosemary. That's what it reminds me of. But you know, I like to think of this as longevity risotto. Because think about how old redwoods are. There's something a little dark crystal about eating young redwood shoots. We're getting some nice color on those mushrooms. That's what you want. Just be aware bechamel takes a little bit longer if your milk is not at room temperature, like mine was. As the bechamel thickens, you'll see that the texture is going to go from milk to like cream. And then from cream to like cream sauce. When it really starts steaming up, you're going to smell those needles. Smells good. And you want it to be almost like melted ice cream consistency. You want it to be pretty thick. Okay, at this point, you have your mushrooms nice and browned. Check that out. Those look pretty good. We're going to dump 2 bags of organic riced cauliflower in. I'm going to start with 1 bag. Okay, now our bechamel is the consistency of like melted ice cream. That's what we want. I'm going to take it off the heat, just set it aside. I'm going to switch pans so that you can see what I'm doing. And then add in the green beans. give them a quick turn around the pan. I just want to stir fry these green beans just to get a little bit of heat on them. I don't want to overcook them. And then I'm going to add frozen. These have been defrosting for like 15 minutes at room temperature. I'm going to add 1 bag of cauliflower rice, and then I have another bag that I'm going to add just in case. Sometimes like it's a little too soupy and I want a little more cauliflower rice. Okay, it's done.